Hello, everyone, and welcome to the very first episode of our Shaping Inclusive Communities podcast, hosted by SaskAbilities. I'm really excited to be here today and for you to be joining us. My name is Aleks Hoeber, and I am a regional director at the Yorkton branch. And with me today, I have our executive director, Ian Wilkinson, joining us.
Hi, Aleks.
Hi, Ian. Thanks for being here. As well as Emily Hurd, who is the Regional Director of Saskatoon and the chair of our 75th anniversary celebrations. Welcome, Emily.
Hi, Aleks. Excited to be here.
And finally, Jessica MacPherson, who is the Regina Regional Director, and she was also co-host of our Shaping Inclusive Communities conference.
Thanks, Aleks.
So welcome, everyone, and thanks for joining me. Our vision for this very first episode was an opportunity to come together and to celebrate a major milestone that SaskAbilities had in 2025, and that was celebrating our 75th anniversary. It's been a year filled with celebrations across the province, connections made, a whole lot of gratitude for the founding members of our organization, and just shared pride in how far we have come. Our vision for this podcast is that we create a space where individuals experiencing disability, their families, and the broader disability community in our province can come together to discuss very important topics. So our guests will be individuals sharing lived experiences as well as their professional knowledge. Jessica will share with us later on in this podcast how the idea came to be after our experience at the Shaping Inclusive Communities Conference. But first, let's start at the very beginning, which is where all good stories start. So Ian, let's start with you. Before we get into learning about our 75th anniversary, can you please tell us about the early beginnings of SaskAbilities?
Aleks, you know, and others know how much I love history, and it's no different with SaskAbilities and our early period. I'm so proud of everything we accomplished back in those first years. We were incorporated in 1950, but our work actually began in 1949 when families came together and they had that heartfelt hope of a better future for their children. And at that time, it was children with cerebral palsy is who we were first serving. But those early years were a real period of growth. And if I stick with those children, what we first established was what was known as a Children's Rehabilitation Center to provide treatment and education for children. We began an accessible bus service as well to get the children to that program. What's really interesting is then we proved that that could work. And then in 1953, we gave that program back to the province of Saskatchewan. And it still runs today as part of the Saskatchewan Health Authority and is known as the Alvin Buckwell Child Development Program. So it's quite incredible. Something that we identified 75 years ago is still going strong in the province. I mentioned accessible bus service, so we began that early, but some of those years saw us, we began Camp Easterseal in 1954, moved to our present location at Little Manitou Lake in 1956, where we've been since then. We began orthopedic services, so things like artificial limbs and braces, and what we now call day programs. That first started in the 1950s as well. So we have such a rich history, Aleks. The other thing I'd mention in those early years then, the polio epidemic was in North America, of course, and we were seeing more individuals who had had polio and needed rehabilitation after that. And so we began providing services to adults soon after we were founded. It just shows kind of the responsiveness of those early families and their commitment to serving our communities.
Thanks, Ian. And as you said, we are definitely all aware of how much you love history, and we love listening to all the historical information that you share with us. the beginnings are definitely a way for us to kind of feel humble and appreciative of where we've come from. And so when you spoke about the Alvin Buckwald Child Development Center, and when you talked about accessible transit and Camp Easter Seal, as well as the day programs and those early beginnings, it's unbelievable and really incredible to think how far SaskAbilities has come since those early 1950s days. And so when you look at how much we've grown and evolved, what are you most proud of, Ian?
There's so much that I'm proud of, Aleks, over the years and how we've evolved. There's so many programs we've introduced over the time. But what I'm most proud of is we've stayed very true to what those families had in mind. This notion, we didn't call it inclusion then, but of course they were all about inclusion and accessibility. And I think we've just continued that. So that's one thing I'm very proud of. We've also continued, and we have all continued to evolve today by responding to individual and community needs. That's what we've always been about, and it has really driven us forward and kept us relevant in our communities. I'm also proud and humbled by the support we've had from Saskatchewan people. And that, I mean, in the broadest sense, governments, community organizations, individuals, you name it. For 75 years, people have been with us on our journey. You know, I'm somewhat hesitant to mention programs, but I'll share a couple that stand out for me. In the late 1980s, we began supported employment, and it was just very much in its early years. And now look at us serving, I think, more than 2,000 people a year in 5 communities across the province through our Partners in Employment program. The other one that we don't talk a lot about is our special needs equipment program, where we're providing equipment to individuals in Saskatchewan. And that we took over from the Ministry of Health in the late 1980s. And with that program, we serve tens of thousands of people every year. So those are just 2 examples, Aleks. The list could go on, but I'll stop there.
Thanks, Ian. It's wonderful to hear all the things that you are so proud of and the programs that we have built together with the Saskatchewan community and support, as you mentioned. And as we were preparing for celebrating our 75 years and everything that has been accomplished over the years, I know we wanted to celebrate big. And so in good old SaskAbilities style, I think we started planning, 2 years ago, maybe? Emily, you would be very familiar with this, as you played a key role in planning these celebrations as the 75th anniversary chair. Can you tell us what was your vision for the 75th anniversary celebrations?
Thanks for the question, Aleks. My vision was to have events and recognition across the province that really celebrated and paid homage to the founding families of SaskAbilities, and brought clients and families and stakeholders and funders and staff, all of us together to celebrate in different ways. I'm very grateful to have the committee that we had that was comprised of staff members from across the province. We had a very, very supportive board of directors. Everyone was very involved, and the vision was to have some fun and to also look forward into what the next 75 years could and will bring. And so as we kind of wind things down here, it's been really exciting to kind of look past at the last 75 years and also start talking about the future and what the next 75 years will bring. And in conclusion, I would say that everything came together so well, and thanks to all of the staff and clients and everyone working so hard, the celebrations were better than I ever could have imagined.
You are right. I think when you talk about wanting to have fun being one of the key components, I know that from what I've heard and the feedback I received is everybody had an incredibly fun year, including the people that we support and their families and our community partners. I think it's definitely a year that everybody's going to be talking about for a while to come yet. With that said, how did we celebrate? Can you share with us some of the ways that we celebrated provincially as well as in the different regions?
Yeah, thanks, Alex. We had so many different celebrations where we tried to do things in lots of different ways. We had a great celebration out at Camp Easter Seal. We did lots of recognition on social media where we were able to share different stories from clients and staff. We had a pop-up shop where people could buy merchandise for SaskAbilities, hats and cups and all sorts of things. We had community barbecues, which were a really nice chance for our staff and their families and clients and their families and just people from the community to get together, look around our buildings, see our spaces. We had a memorabilia display with almost 90 pieces of SaskAbilities history that traveled the province where people could come and see our history in sort of a living way. We gave out 2,200 commemorative pins to members of the community to celebrate our 75th. And we were also very privileged to receive proclamations from cities and towns from across the province recognizing our 75 years of incorporation, which was on December 2nd as SaskAbilities Day. So we were very honored for that. So those are some of them. There were lots.
You are right. There definitely was a lot. So congratulations to you and the entire committee on a job well done. And just out of curiosity, I'm wondering if you know all the answers to all the 75 trivia questions.
You know, we stumped a lot of people, but we also have a very engaged staff. So we had a lot of right answers as well. So it was fun to give out the prizes.
That's awesome. That's good to know. And so as we reflect on all those celebrations and everything that took place throughout the year, I'm curious, just from each of you, what was one highlight for you? Maybe we'll start with you, Ian. What was something that stands out for you from all of the great things that happened this year?
For me, Alex, in April, we held our annual general meeting, and the evening before, our president hosted a reception. It was just a wonderful evening. But what really it was when we debuted our 75th anniversary video. And for me, SaskAbilities and my very dear friend Tom Spence was in it. And that was just a very touching moment for me.
Thanks, Ian. I agree that video was really, really well done and came from so many different perspectives and such a nice way to be able to remember all the people that contribute to the success of SaskAbilities over the years, for sure. Thank you. Emily, you're next.
Well, this is a tough question, and it is nearly impossible to pick, but I am going to go with our camp day at Camp Easter Seal this summer, where we welcomed many, many individuals from across the province to spend the day with us and celebrate our 75th anniversary. We did tours of camp. We had an amazing lunch. We sang our camp songs. We heard from amazing speakers. We buried our time capsule at camp, which was really special. And everyone got to see the beautiful art doors that we created as part of our 75th, where we invited artists from across the province, including current campers, to design beautiful art panels that will be placed on the doors of each of our cabins. So that was a really special way to recognize our 75th anniversary.
Yes, that was truly an incredible day. I definitely won in the books for me too. I think for me, what stood out was just the weather was beautiful. I think the people who showed up were very, very pleased and excited to be there to celebrate. And the campers were so welcoming for everybody to come through and enjoy the day. So well done to you on that as well. And Jessica, what was a highlight for you?
Yeah, thanks, Alex. This is a tough question. And I'll say I was at the president's reception. I can admit I had tears when the video was premiered. I attended camp day, and I think you all experienced how energized I was after being at camp and seeing the people and the art and the song. But definitely my highlight of the year was the Shaping Inclusive Communities Conference, which we hosted in September. And that one will be something that sticks with me for a long time after this year.
Yes, so many wonderful things to reflect back on that I think all of us are going to be thinking of for years to come. With the conference, Jessica, how did that idea come about? It was so much fun co-planning it with you. I know we had an incredible committee that we worked along with and feeling kind of sad when it was all over.
Sure. Well, I think it started with a conversation, an idea from Ian, if I remember correctly, and a conversation between Ian and yourself, Aleks, thinking about building on some success that we see every year in Yorkton with a conference in that community, and starting to think about in our 75th year. You've heard all of the things that we had planned, but was there something that we could do as a thank you for our community? Was there an event we could plan to give back? I mean, we had barbecues, we had a great AGM and all of these other events, but could we plan something really meaningful for our community to come together, learn something new, make a new connection, and be inspired? And that's where the idea started. So an idea from Ian that we picked up, you and I together. We pulled together a great team of staff from across the province, and we just started putting together plans that developed into a really incredible 2-day event.
And it was just so much fun planning it along with you and the committee members. I think we set early on a goal to have 500 attendees, and we thought the goal was really big and weren't sure if we were going to achieve it, but we were able to sell out and had just such incredible response. I was so pleased to see such a diverse group of individuals who attended, from professionals to people experiencing disability to family members, many trade show exhibitors. If you had to describe the energy in the room over those 2 days, how would you describe it?
I think I would just say it's probably the most highly engaged, energized, positive group that I've ever taken part in an event like that before. When we were opening the doors on the first day, I think it was well over an hour before the official door opening happened, when people were already rolling in, coming through the trade show. The next morning on Saturday at 7 a.m., we were kind of getting things in order for the day. And there again were our attendees, excited and energized, wanting to connect and take part in it. And so it's hard to describe the energy in the room. And sometimes when you're planning an event, you become so mired in the details of making it a great experience. We really saw the appetite and enthusiasm and for people to have the chance to connect with each other, whether that's families or with professionals or with our 27 trade show vendors or with our keynote speakers or our panelists. And that energy really carried us through the entire event and really made it a great success.
I agree with you. I think the best way for me to describe it was that by the end of it, my heart was really, really full. And one of the things that I noted is so many people came around and just said, like, wow, what an incredible opportunity. Thank you for having this. Thank you for having us. We had great keynote speakers. We had Madison Tavlin, as well as Tempo Grandin. And then we had panelists that were individuals with lived experience, as well as some professionals providing different perspectives on really, really key and very important topics. Lots of takeaway moments and lessons. And so with that, what is one key moment and one key lesson that stood out for you that you will carry through for a while, Jessica?
Yeah, it's hard to beat Tempo Grandin, I'm going to be honest. And so the opportunity to have someone like Dr. Tempo Grandin come to our event and take part in it, but also share her perspective and her knowledge, and really be generous with her time was pretty remarkable to me. And I think just hearing her say, both as a keynote and at different media connections that she made while she was in Regina, talking about the value in different ways of thinking, about the value in different types of mind, and just that reiteration of that we all contribute to our communities, and we have to continue to push perspectives about not just inclusion, but just that everybody has something to add in their community. And employment is an important part of that, and being connected with others in the communities you live in is an important part of that. And so just hearing Dr. Grandin talk about that, a few times over the course of a couple of days was really inspiring and really a moment that I won't forget. And then for a lesson, I would say that connection is important, sort of further to what I had shared before, the importance of creating venues where people can connect and share information and find support, and just find each other to be part of something was really a lesson that I took from this event, and the desire of people to be connected and the importance and the power of that.
I agree with you, Jessica. The connection between individuals was incredible, amazing. A lot of people lining up to speak to the panelists at the end of their sessions. We covered some important topics. Can you share with us how many total questions we received and how we plan to ensure that some of the unanswered questions get addressed? So we had a few people come up to us afterwards say, oh, I had a question and that question wasn't answered. And so we were a little bit worried about getting enough questions, and I think we had the opposite happen.
Yeah, I think it really speaks to just the format that we planned, right? We wanted this to be an engaging event where people came and they received a little bits of information on a wide range of topics, and they could take that information and sort of run with it or dive deeper into it and make a connection that helped them with something interesting that they heard. And so in our 4 panel discussions, there was a lot of information shared, and we probably didn't know, Aleks, how many questions, the appetite for questions and the interest, but we had in total 231 questions come in over the day on Saturday between our 4 panel discussions. And I would say we probably were only able to, the panelists in the time allotted, to answer about 30 or 40 of those questions. So you can imagine the interest remained high during the sessions and afterwards. And so after the event, we as a team sat down and thought, there is so much interest and engagement. There's so many great questions. People did want to know more. We sparked an interest in topics, and we had some pretty dynamic speakers take part in our panels. So how can we carry that forward? And so that's I think where we came to this podcast, the idea of how can we take forward something that inspired all of us as a group, as staff, and was inspiring to others who took part in the conference. And so maybe we'll talk a little bit about that later.
And some of the topics that we did cover during the conference, for those of you listening that were not there, is we talked about finances, we talked about home supports, employment, community involvement, legal guardianship. And as Jessica mentioned, there was a ton of questions. And this podcast, our goal is to be able to bring those answers to you, to continue having these conversations surrounding these topics, as well as others that are very relevant and significant to those who are listening today. And as we look ahead and plan for the future, Ian, I'm curious, what's next for SaskAbilities?
Thanks, Aleks. I think you've heard in the podcast here just the energy and the enthusiasm and the celebratory mood during the year, and I was certainly witness to it throughout the year. And I believe we're really going to take that momentum into 2026 and beyond. But it is really about inclusion and accessibility for us, right back to those early days. So Aleks, you're going to see more of that in the coming years. There's more work to do in our province. We've made great strides, but there's lots more that we can do. And I think true to SaskAbilities, whatever new programs that we introduce, and there will be new programs, they're always going to be responsive to the individual needs of people experiencing disability, as well as what communities are telling us and what they want and what they see. I'm quite excited. One initiative that we're working on that'll take us into 2026, we're undertaking research into home supports, and I'm really excited what we're going to find in those results. And I'm hoping there's some things we can do with others in the province in that area.
Yeah, Aleks, I would echo what Ian has said. It's really exciting to hear where we're headed. There's so many good things on the horizon. And, after such a milestone year, I think we're just re-energized to continue on.
I agree with you 100%. And I'm excited. I've been at SaskAbilities for 23 years, and I'd like to say I could be here for 20 more, but we'll see how that goes. Well, I think we're getting close to the end of our very first episode. And so with that, a classic closing question. If you could describe SaskAbilities in one word, what would it be?
Inclusive.
Motivating.
Dynamic.
Aleks, I would ask you the same question. What would your one word be?
Community. And finally, if Emily, anybody wants to learn a little bit more about our 75 years here in Saskatchewan, where can they go and find this information?
SaskAbilities has a great website. It's www.saskabilities.ca. You can learn all about our programs and services there, as well as visit our page on our 75th.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone, for joining me here today. I am proud to be a small part of SaskAbilities and working alongside all of you. And I'm excited, as I said, for our future together. And to everyone listening, thank you for being part of this very first episode. We invite you to join us for our next episode. We're hoping to have them out on a monthly basis, where we will be bringing back our panelists. So individuals with lived experience, as well as experts and professionals in the field. And we will have an opportunity for you to share your questions after we make the announcements of who our guests are. So please stay tuned to follow us on our social media channels. So Facebook, Instagram, you can look us up by SaskAbilities. Each of our regions also has their own Facebook page. We will be making the announcements shortly, and we'll give you an opportunity in the comments section to ask questions that you might have for our guests, and we hope to see you back.